They said, we need to honor the mechanics and the pilots and the other people that keep these great aircraft flying. And he said, I'd like to make the 19th of August, which is Orville Wright's birthday, National Aviation Day. That was in 1938. So 1939 was the first celebrated National Aviation Day. And very few folks really know, and airplane people should know National Aviation Day is the 19th of August. So go out and get in your Champ or Cub, if we have any Cub people here, or Big Craft, or whatever, and take your friend for a ride on the National Aviation Day. Other than that, I have a few things I'd like to mention here, and I'd like for your folks to ask me questions that you have, and I'll talk about a few things and try to explain your question. If I can, I'll try to find out and get back to it. But what I want to mention here a little bit, I have several STCs for the Aeroncas for the 7AC, 7DCM, 7DC, and 7CCM. And also, this is applicable to the Chief and the Centaurs. That if you wanted to attach the fabric with rib stitching or pop rivets, I have the STC for that for all 7 and 11 series Aeroncas. And I've had a lot of comments and saying, oh, that pop rivet will split the edge of the rib, and that's bad. But that's not so. The FAA came to my shop about 5 years ago, and we did pool tests with the O20 rib. Sideways, straight out, every which way you could think of, trying to crack that edge of the rib. And the rivet pulled out around 80-some pounds versus 35 pounds with the screw pulling out. Of course, the weight loading on these champs is less than 9 pounds per square foot, and the never exceed speed is less than 160, so that's a big factor right there. Also, rib stitching is approved on the same STC. And I've had people say, oh, I've seen fabric hang down under the wing where the rib stitches cut on the edge of that metal, almost killed a couple of people. I don't entirely buy that. It's possible, yeah, that the fabric was hanging down, but what causes that is the varmints get in there and they start chewing on that wax cord, and they really love that. They get fat off of it, and they can't get to the front side or the rear side of the spar, so they start chewing into the spar to get on the other side after getting fat off that rib cord. And we ran tests on this also. When you put your rib stitching, that needle's a little bit larger than the rib cord. And when you put your paint edge tape on, you take a big layer of dope or polytack or whatever it may be used to attach the tapes. That runs down that little hole on each side of the rib that the needle made going through. And that glue runs down and glues that rib cord kind of to the edge of that rib and prevents any chafing. But we also, when we did testing on the screws, we did testing on the rib stitching, drag that rib cord back and forth on that sharp edge of the rib that everybody's listening to cut. And if you have time enough and sit there for hours, you probably wear it through. But did a lot of testing on this. I have it approved. It's FAA approved. And anybody wants to rib stitch or champ or use pop rivets, I use the same pop rivet that American Champion uses. And Champion Aircraft started using that pop rivet in October 1967. Yeah, October 67 is when they started using it. And the part number is AD42BSLL. What that means, AD means aluminum double. 4 and the 2 is the diameter and the length of the rivet. BS means break shank, and LF means large flaps. And that is approved by STC for the tail surfaces, ailerons, wings. Now, several people have bought by STC, and they say, I didn't put enough rivets. 825 rivets is what it takes for the whole airplane. I noticed a lot of folks will put rivets or screws in all the ribs out to the aileron bay, and all the holes in the ribs. Those holes were 2 5/16 apart. Those ribs were stamped all in the same die. And if you read my STC very closely, and a lot of folks don't read it through, it says the first 2 ribs in the propeller slipstream, a screw or a pop rivet in every hole in the rib. Every other rib out to the aileron bay, you skip a hole, and they're 4 5/8, not 2 5/16, but they think there's a hole there, put something in it. That's not always the case. Now, out at the aileron bay area and on out, there are 4 5/8, except the last tip rib. Yeah. Still here? Okay, I gotta redo this thing. Probably need a pin for it. But anyway, the last full rib out at the very tip of the rib are the same as the imported rib. And every 4 5/8 out there also. But the hole you skip and put the screw or the rivet in, make sure it lines up with the ones in the aileron bay. Otherwise, you're sitting in the cockpit and look down underneath the wing, you'll see a line and an offset, and then back to the middle one, all in a straight line. So I mentioned a little bit about that STC. The other STCs is for the C85, -8, -12, -14, or -16 engine, or the C90, -8, -12, -14, or -16 engine, are approved to my STCs. With the, you do not need a large fin with either STC for the 85 or 90. The large fin is not required, but if you want it, that's fine. The long stroke no bounce gear is not required for my STC, but if you want it, that's fine. I have it approved. If you want a mixture control, that's fine. That's approved for my STC. The handle Wilson mufflers, the straight exhaust, or the Cessna 150 mufflers are also approved. That's all approved in the STC. Take your pick what you want. For the 11AC Jeep, I have the C85-8-12 approved for the 11AC, and the -12 for the 11BC Aeroncas Jeep. And the same exhaust is approved, the Hamlin Wilson, the straight exhaust for the Cessna 150. The large fin is not approved for my STC, or wait a minute, I'll put it this way. Start over again. The large fin, the vertical fin, was never approved for the 11AC with the 865, and I know a lot of folks have put them on. I've gotten field approvals on it. But the fin with my 85 STC, you do not have to put the large fin on. If you want it, that's fine. But you do not have to put it on. Another thing, that data tag is not re-stamped with my STC. It still stays a 7AC or a 7DCM or a 7DC or a 7CCM. An STC is a modification to the original type certificate. It's not a conversion. The aircraft manufacturer can authorize a conversion from one model to another. An STC is a modification. I've had people that call me and say, hey, you don't say anything in your Champ STC about stamping the data plate. I said, no, it stays the same. So now, on some installations, FAA 8130.2 or 0.28, I think it is now, requires a different data plate. But still here. But it's not required with my STC. Something dropped out there. You hear back there? Still have a light on. Yeah, it's still on. I guess I have to talk a little louder. Charlie, this thing's still, yeah, it's still working right now. I guess I have to.
Just keep it close.
Because they should real close. No, and the boy it takes care of it. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm curious, do you have an STC for the distance range?
understand the Champ has an STC available, but not the Chief.
That's correct. I don't know the Chief having an STC for disc brakes. Hydraulic brakes we're talking about. I don't know one for the Chief. I know a lot of folks that put hydraulic brakes on the Chief, use an FAA fuel approval, but I don't know an STC. That's easy to find out if you want. Yeah. Grandson said repeat the question for the people in the back. An STC for hydraulic brakes on the Chief. I don't know an STC for the hydraulic brakes on the Chief. White Arrow has an STC for the hydraulic brakes on the 7 Series Aeroncas. But I am working on an STC for brakes for on the Chief, but I have so many projects going, I just don't have time to get around everything. If I have enough years left in life, I'll probably come up with the STC for the hydraulic brakes. Toe brakes, left and right side is what I want to do for the 11 Series Aeroncas. I know a lot of flight instructors won't fly with a student and a Chief because no brakes on the right side. Well, sometimes with a student, it'd be nice to have brakes on the right side, especially if you're starting the ground movement. I know a lot of folks say, well, I don't need brakes. You know, I know how to fly the airplane. I don't need brakes. They won't tell you about the time that they really did need it. They won't admit it. But I've been flying airplanes for almost 64 years, and I've rode with a lot of people, and I've taught a lot of people to fly over the years. And anyone that says they don't need brakes, they better rethink their comments. But hopefully I'll get an STC sometime for the hydraulic brakes on the left and right side, and mechanical brakes for the left and right side for the 11 Series Aeroncas. Anything, questions here on this? Yes, sir, right there.
Bill, does your CA5 STC cover the G65 CA?
I do not have an STC for the pre-war 65 CA. I think there is an STC. I'm not sure the STC number for that. Where you can find that, go to faa.gov and on their homepage, scroll down the lower left corner. Now, I think they've changed that homepage some, but search around on there where it says STC. Click on that, type in Aeroncas 65 CA, and it will come up there. Now, this is confusing also. There'll be stuff come up on that STC page for the Aeronca, for thrust reversers and all this kind of stuff on other aircraft, because it's under Aeronca, and Aeronca build a bunch of that stuff for other aircraft manufacturers. So that's maybe a little confusion. Why would you want a thrust reverser on the 1941 65 CA? Sometimes it might be handy on a short field, but then when you type in the manufacturer, that will come up everything that's STC. Well, I found some things that are not on there, but you may have to look under Aeronca, you may have to look under Malacca, and you may have to go under American Champion and type that in there. American Champion owns the type certificate data sheets for all the 7 and 11 Series Aeroncas. Other different people, the National Aeronca Association, owns the type certificate for some models, pre-war models. Some other people owns it for other models also. But you can search on there and find who has STCs, what's applicable to certain aircraft. You have to play with it a little bit and get familiar with it. I think I've probably talked enough on that. The other thing I want to mention, with my STC, I have in there, if you want an electrical system, that's fine. I don't list one generator, alternator, because if you want to stay away from ADSB, which is required 1st of January, you're coming, you have an engine-driven alternator, then you're going to have to comply with that. The other thing, if you want a wind-driven generator, then you don't have to comply with it. You don't need a transponder. If you had a transponder or a generator, that's not approved. Or even if you had a storage battery and you're going to run a transponder off of it, that's not approved either. Because ATC, you're working through Class B airspace or something, your battery goes dead or your wind generator hits a big bug and bombs it out and they're going to lose you. They don't like that. They like good, smooth traffic flow through there. That's why they want an engine-driven generator or alternator. What's approved for these continentals, Hartsville Technology, has a 50-amp alternator, which will fit right on that drive. And I've been trying to get Hartsville to put that on the approved model list. Now they have the 7 EC on the approved model list for the 7 series, the 7 EC champions. But I kind of worked around that a little bit to give some folks some lateral room there. If they want to go ADSB, then you're going to snap an alternator. But my STCs for the 7 series covers all the C series, -8, -12, 14, and 16. Now the -14, I've had people say, well, what the heck is that? It has more engine miles on it, same as the O200. And with that engine, and if you use the Lord mounts in a champ, that sets the engine 5/8 of an inch further forward. And you start putting your cowling on, your cowling won't fit because the engine's setting 5/8 of an inch further forward. I have PMA adapters that will go in where the Lord mounts went. I think I have it here. Yeah, right here. I brought a sample with me. If someone wants to look at this after the presentation here, which no way can cover everything I want to talk about in an hour. I could be here 10 hours or longer and keep talking. But I have it with adapters in it that converts it back to the conical mount and sets the engine back where it should be for the -14 models. And of course the -16, that's a machine for a vacuum pump, and it also is a machine for the conical rubber mount, for the lower mounts also. So there's a few options there on the STCs. Mixture control process, I mentioned, large scale if you want. No one, that's fine. 100-pound gross weight increase from 1220 to 1320. No big tail, no ulcer, no mouse gears required. You're not put on, fine. You still hear me okay? It sounds different. Yeah, that's still. Maybe I have to hold. Maybe it's getting used to my voice. Any questions on what I just talked about? Yeah, okay. Talk loud. I'm half deaf. My hearing bad, so scream.
Okay, so on my project, you looked at 2 photos and pulled me up and gave me some service bulletins that I knew nothing about and weren't in any of the manuals. Where would one go?
Yeah, I'm having difficulty hearing.
What's your question?
Okay. On my project, you looked at 2 photos that I posted and called me up and said, hey, you did make these 2 changes to the fuel system because you're putting it back together the way it was done originally, and since then there's been 2 service records. Yeah, it's just, where would one go to find all of the service bulletins that are related to your particular project, rather than relying on calling you to tell me, oh, you need to look at this page, or you need to find this document.
Yeah, well, you looked at 2 photos and I posted on my project, pulled me up and told me about information, your system of fuel lines and sent me some service bulletins and wrote me any documentation I had. It's like, where would you go to make sure you picked up all that information?
Okay, this is on the wing tanks. 2 13-gallon wing tanks. Yeah. Oh, you have a 13-gallon tank in each wing and one in the fuselage?
No, I had the lower manifold in the fuselage.
Okay, I'll get it straight now. Kit 192 came out back in 1960. You could put a 13-gallon tank in each wing on a 7AC, 7 DCM was approved for all. The nose tank had to come out. Or they made some modifications on it later on with the service letters. They had the rear manifold mounted low. The line running from the manifold came up and did a dip and so forth and attached to a front manifold. And then from that front manifold, the fuel line coming out of the front of each tank ran down along the windshield into that manifold, and the fuel lines coming out of the rear tank ran down and into the rear manifold. They were all tied together. Well, they wanted that fuel line running up the side, a slight slope all the way up because water was laying in it. Now, water's not supposed to be in gas, but it does get in there. Water was laying in it, and the breeze with that aluminum line. And there was a service letter on that, on the vent line. The vent line used to come out underneath the left wing, and it was chamfered on the end, and fuel would run out of that. That was changed later on to come out of the outboard side of the tank where the vent line went in and made a 90-degree bend vertical. You can look down the filler deck. You can look down into the filler deck and you can see that vent line. And they were tied together, ran along the top of the back side of the front spar, made a 90-degree bend back about a foot and across the top of the fuselage and then out to the brake tank. Now the vent line come up to the wing gap bearing and pointed forward. That was the way it's supposed to be taped up now because we had problems with that vent system before. Is that muddy to everybody? Okay. Where you can find the service bulletins, American Champion will be glad to sell you the complete service bulletins from Service Hilton Hints #1, service bulletins on through right up to the present right now. And all that is included in that package of service bulletins. There's a lot of good information there. Some of it doesn't pertain to your life. I have a lot of it. Out individual service bulletins. Sometimes I'll send out service bulletins, I'll make a copy, and sometimes I can email them to you. If you have an email address, I can scan it and email it to you. But, oh, there it's working again. I don't know what's wrong. Okay, back to back. Well, get a little closer. Okay, he wants me to elaborate on a 100-pound gross weight increase. With my STC, there's no change to the airplane except you must have a C-85 or a C-90. Doesn't matter what dash number, it's approved from all. And you get a gross weight increase of 100 pounds from 1220 to 1320. Is what you get with my STC for the 7AC, the 7DCM, the 7DC with the type certificate data sheet allows you to go to 1,500 pounds on the 7DC. And the 7CCM, you put the long stroke no bounce gear on it and a placard on the instrument panel, 1-2929, and you can go to 1350. But once you go to 1350, that takes you down to the light sport category. You can never, ever legally go back to the light sport category. Once you went beyond that 1320. That's why my STCs were cut off at 1320. To keep it light sport category. If you want to go by the type certificate, you have a 7DC or a 7CCM, you want to go to 1350, then it's gone. I run into this, it's been about 10 years ago. A fella bought a 7CCM that was converted from a 7AC to a 7CCM, and of course, service letter 15. And He wanted to convert it back to the 7AC, put the original 7AC colors on it, the A65 engine. Yeah, that's fine. The gross weight back to 1220. But you can never fly light sport category because you've been out of the light sport category and you can't go back. I called several ACO offices. I called, I don't know, 4 or 5 different FISDO offices that I knew the people. I talked to a couple of DRs and DARs. They all, let's say, 98% of them came up with the same thing. You cannot go back. A couple of them told me, well, I don't see why you can't. Well, the way you read the regulations, you can. It's written, they tied a knot and put glue on the knot that you can't change it. Okay.
What if you got the bus wax or roll through 35?
He says it reverts to a 7 CCM. But you read that STC, it says 7AC. And this is a gray area there. I talked to a couple of ACO, which is aircraft certification office, about that. And that's a gray area there because it says 7AC. In type certificate data sheet A759, there's 24 different models of aircraft go under that same type certificate. Each one of those models has a different type design. And some say that pilots in that type certificate you can do on any model. I said, okay, I want to take an 0320 off of 7 GCDC and put them on my 7AC. They're all going under the same type certificate. Oh, no, you can't do that. I said, no, wait a minute, you're just telling me anything under that type certificate you can do. And now you're telling me that you can't pick and choose. So that's confusing. I'm working now trying to get that clarified. But if you talk to 10 different FAA places and you'll get 8 different answers. So that's still a gray area there I'm trying to get squared away with. What else have we? Yes, sir.
7AC, you go cut off valve underneath the fuel tank.
Yeah,
3 rods.
yes.
Leaking, is there a current replacement for that?
Yes, he's talking about the fuel shutoff valve underneath the fuel tank. A little imperial valve, which was originally made for tractors. Aeroncas used a lot of automotive parts. And he's wondering if it's a replacement or a repair. I used to repair the packing, add it, you can repack it if it's leaking around the stem, get some graphite string packing, and put a little layer of fuel lube on the packing, and put it in there, and that will help seal it. Earl Rogers in Alaska that has the type certificate for the Aeroncas sedan. Burl has new valves STC. They're a little pricey, but they're nice. Univair has an STC valve approved for the Piper J3, the Piper series. It's a stainless steel ball valve, and I think that's what Burl is using. And it is FAA PMA approved for the Piper. I've used those valves before in Aeroncas, and I did an FAA field approval on it, just to make it legal, just to cover my butt. If somebody else looked at it and said, oh, Pancake stuck an unapproved valve in there. Well, I put that fuel valve in there with the paperwork that came to it. Now I have to make an adapter to adapt the fuel rod to that stem on that valve. I had to machine an adapter, and I drilled one end of it and put in where your universal joint hooked to it. I used a clevis pin in there. I think a 3/32 clevis pin, which I make new universals, and I ream them with a reamer so I'd get a good, nice precision fit. So that's the outlet on there on the fuel valve. It's a little pricey. I think it gets around $400. It's STC. And I run into one, a fella called me here some time back, and several people's called me about this, about the fuel valve. They wanted a fuel flow test. Well, it's PMA and FAA approved, so the fuel flow test always been done. These were certified under CAR 4A and I think .621, I'm not sure, under CAR 4A 1950 edition, I think April 1950. The fuel flow must be double the takeoff fuel flow. Let's say your engine pulls 7 gallons an hour on takeoff power. You've got to have at least 14 gallons an hour flowing, so the fuel flow has got to be double the takeoff power for whatever aircraft you're putting in oil. Yes, sir. I can't hear you. We have some ladies singing out there, and I love their music.
The auxiliary fuel valve on a Aeroncas machine. I've tried to repair it several times, it leaks, and of course now you're talking that one is available. I went on his internet site. Now what my question is where the fuel valve goes from that line up to the bottom of the tank. There's a T valve there. The thread on that T fitting, is that one of the oddball threads or is that a standard thread?
Well, up there where the fitting goes into the tank, that's 1/4-inch pipe. Where your primer line comes out is 1/8-inch pipe. And they may have put a reducer in there and bringing the primer line off of that. Now that fuel valve that goes up into the bottom of the tank, from your main tank down to your gas bladder, that is 1/4-inch pipe thread on the end that screws into the tank. Where your fuel line goes into that, folks think that is 1/4-inch pipe. That is not. That is 9/16 20 threads per inch. That's a special nut that goes on there. And I used to make the nuts for that, kind of slowing down now. But I would make the nuts in the ferrule that went on the line. It was a football type ferrule that they used on pipe or on tubing fittings. And it was a ferrule that was cut off on the end that was flat and tapered on the other end, and that nut would screw up and push that ferrule up in there. If you look up into that valve, you'll see it's kind of tapered up in the top of the valve right before the plug. And that thread, I think 1/4-inch pipe is 18 threads per inch, and this special nut is 20 threads per inch, 9/16 20. And so you have to be careful. I performed an annual inspection on several airplanes that had 1/4-inch pipe fitting in there, and they had about a yard of Teflon tape wrapped around that and trying to get it to seal. Teflon tape is a bad thing around aircraft. Teflon tape in aviation does not mix. There, some years back, there's a Cherokee 6 left Western Ohio, and there were 6 souls on board, and they were gone somewhere in North Carolina fishing. And they took off early one morning, still in the dark, and they had a drastic engine failure, killed 6 people. And through the NTSB investigation, they found a Teflon tape into the oil system and plugged up an oil gallery, and connecting rods started coming loose. And so Teflon tape is bad stuff. There's a couple other cases. People, since we're in the fuel system, I'll talk about slushing compound. Slushing compound is a bad thing. Slushing compound is like shellac. And to dissolve shellac or prevent it, you use alcohol. And years ago, we always said alcohol and gasoline doesn't mix. We were talking about drunk drivers. Well, that applies with aircraft also. Alcohol and gasoline does not mix. People that had slushing compound in their Coke tank and their champ tank, and now they got the STC to burn auto fuel. You don't know how bad auto fuel gets contaminated. Some pumps will say no ethanol added. Well, you don't know what was in that tanker when they brought that load of fuel in. It probably still has some residual fuel in there that had alcohol in it, and I know a couple of cases where the guy swore up and down, no, there was no alcohol in the gas. I said, did you check it? No, it said so on the pump. I said, you're going to have to check it. Sure. What happened, that slushing compound started coming loose. And this aircraft, this particular aircraft, had no vapor screen on the fuel outlet. And some of that strips of slushing compound was coming loose and plugged up the fuel outlet and starved the engine for fuel. They had plenty of fuel on board, but the fuel flow was starved because of the slushing compound being loose, not only the fuel outlet, and the engine throttled way back, and he went in and really ruined the airplane, couldn't use it again. But, any other questions? I'm sure there's some. Oh, goodness, yeah, okay, you're the closest, and we'll get the rest of you.
What's the best way to service the primer? Put new packing in, still leaks.
Well, the best way to service the primer depends on what primer. Aeroncas use numerous kinds. They use the Lunkenheimer, and they use the Lunkenheimer. In the top of the Lunkenheimer, it has a little seal in there, graphite string packing, lubricated with fuel lube, and you can. Now, is it leaking around the stem, or is it just one pump?
Stem leaks.
Okay, the stem leaks. The seal right at the end of the stem, that nut that you tighten up on a Luckenheimer primer, some 1/16 pump packing or steam valve packing, a real small graphite packing. That's what you originally had in there. Put a wrap or two in there, tighten it up tight, and then back it off, and then just snug it up enough to where it's lubricating. Fuel lube. There are several different brands of fuel lube. I like the sticky kind that's hard to get off the fingers. That works the best. They had some other that look like peanut butter. I never cared much for that. Yeah, the little fuel lube one makes it go better. Sometimes these old primers, they have a little tiny spring in them, about 3/32 diameter and about 3/16 long. And that little spring is made out of steel. The steel uses fire. And it will get rusty, and so will the check ball in there. There's 2 check balls and 2 little springs in most primers. That little spring will get rusty and it will break, and your check ball will rust. And it'll leak by, or the primer won't load when you pull it out, and when you push it back in to push fuel up into the intake manifold, nothing goes, it just goes right back in the tank. Sometimes the fuel line gets plugged up because there's no filter on that, and sediment and stuff in the fuel tank will get down into that little 3/32 line going to that primer. All a small hole in there. You can plug up easy. Take the primer apart and play with it, and maybe get it to work for a while, maybe not. Situating the fuel systems, I want to mention another one about fuel caps on these champs. We have a grommet that fits around the filler tank on the 13-gallon tank. Some FBOs, they have people pumping fuel and are not familiar with the old Aeroncas, and they'll stick a very big nozzle that they're going to gas up a C-54 with or something like that. Stick that down in that little nozzle, and it pushes that down. It bends the top of the fuel tank and pushes it down. Sometimes it cocks it sideways. And then you straighten it back up and you put the fuel cap on, and you have that grommet on there. That grommet will come in contact with the fuel cap and cause fuel starvation because the fuel tank won't drain. I'll give you an example of that. Several years, all this been 25 years ago, some of you here may remember it. That this fellow had his airplane handled with the same mechanic for a good many years. So something happened, he couldn't handle it anymore. So they took it to another shop to get it handled. Well, there's a leak in the fuel tank. And so the other shop pulled the fuel tank out to repair the leak, put it all back together, put the same fuel cap back on it. The gentleman came and picked up his airplane after the handle was finished. 15 minutes in flight, whoa, the engine cuts way back to the island and stops. He got it in the field, okay. He checked everything, took the cap off, looked in the tank, yeah, it's full of fuel. Drain the gas later, that worked. Pulled the prop through, compression good. Well, he started to look again. He started right up, ran fine. Takes off and goes again. And about 10, 15, 20 minutes later, the engine stops. And he wasn't so lucky that time. There's no place to go but into the trees or through a fence. And the FAA and the NTSB investigates it, and they find out it had an unvented fuel cap on it. Now, with the unvented fuel cap, they violated the IA that signed off the annual inspection on it because he had the wrong fuel cap installed. He said, no, that was the same cap on that airplane that came. All I did was repair the tank and put the same cap back on, not checking the cap. It was an unvented cap, but the tank was venting through the crack in the tank. So he repaired the leak and he sealed the vent. So anyway, the FAA violated and I was suspended for 90 days, I think. But you have to be careful when you're full with the fuel systems on any airplane. Ran into another problem. Caps leaking on this time. This was a Satagra 7GCPC. They worked on it, and they take off and climb out at a pretty high pitch angle, and the engine would cut back. They drop the nose naturally when you lose your power. The fuel run down, the engine pickup run good. Fly around level, fine. So he went to climb more, climbing out at a higher angle attack, cuts back again. So they had the carburetor off of it, they had the fuel lines off of it, they worked on it. And I know at least 5 cases this has happened on 7 ECAs, 7 GCPC, 7 KCAs, and I get calls. And I said, oh, this is an easy one. I said, your fuel caps are leaking. No, we just put new fuel caps on it, put vented fuel caps on it. I said, that's the same as a leak. You look in your maintenance manual, it tells you the cap and the part number that goes on there. What happens when you're climbing out of a high pitch angle, high angle attack, the center of pressure on the top of that wing moves forward over the fuel caps. It's putting a negative pressure on it, and it's sucking that fuel up out of there because the caps are leaking. And that causes a restriction in the fuel flow. Your maintenance manual for the 7 GCPCs and also for any Aeronca has kit 192 if the fuel system is installed in accordance with the instructions in kit 192 or that's for the 13-gallon tank in each wing. It unvented caps and your fuel vent line comes up out the wing gap bearing pointed forward and a couple of slipstream provides enough positive pressure that it's going to fuel's going to flow properly. But you put vented caps on there or have caps that seals are leaking as high angle attack that center of pressure moves forward. There's enough negative pressure there that your fuel's not going to flow. So be very careful when you're messing with fuel systems. I see alterations on fuel systems with champs, I've seen it on Mustangs, Taylor crowds, and they can't figure out why they have problems. Do it like approved data for it. Do it like the original manufacturer intended to be, or if there's an ST seal in the fuel system, comply with it, right to the word, right to the letter. Yes, sir. Okay. Dan here wants to know about the part number for the rubber seal around the fuel tank. I have one laying up here. The rubber grummer. This can be purchased from Unibear. This is for the air proof. Anybody flying air proof? What? Yeah, there's a John Deere also. It's unapproved, but that will work also. This is unapproved also. But this Urku Unibear sells it. It fits tight around it. You can trim this rubber around the bottom of it, It fits real nice down over it. It looks exactly like the original. I used to have a bunch of the original drones. I used to work for Aeroncas sales and service back in the 50s. We weren't selling airplanes at that time, but we were maintaining them. And I was young and dumb, and I just wished I'd paid closer attention to them back then. But I learned a lot from them. I can't remember what I forgot, but I did learn a lot from them. But this Aircoop fuel drum will work on the jam tank. You can trim it a little bit to get it to slide down over there. Or if you had the wrapper cowl off, and put the scrubbing in the wrapper cowl, and then put the wrapper cowl on. But if you do that, you'll want to loosen up the straps on the fuel tank so that you can shuffle the tank around a little bit to get it in the center of this, so it won't be binding, and the filler neck is coming straight up. It's not top sideways. So, but the Aeroncas will work better than the John Deere, and it looks much better than the John Deere. The original ones for Aeroncas was made by Pauling Rubber Company in Pauling, New York, and I had a bunch of those, and I think I sold them for 25 cents a piece or something like that back in the old days. I asked some other questions. Yes, sir.
Are you working on an SPC or Cato propellant?
Or what?
Cato propellant?
No, he wouldn't know if I was working on SPC for that propeller. That would probably be the propeller manufacturer should work on that, or else get it approved and have it on each aircraft approved model list. But as far as I know, that's not approved for JAM. Some folks may have it on there. You live out in the backwoods where they don't know where you live, it's probably be okay. Till something happens. Maybe the reason things are FAA, PMA approved. A parts manufacturer making parts to sell. And if you're selling parts, then the FAA is required to have parts manufacturer approved to make sure that you're making that to approve design of that part, that you're using the proper type of metal, the welding is done properly, or if it's a sheet metal part, that it's made in accordance with the original specifications. Now, you can make a part for your own airplane. It used to be FAR's 21303, but I think that's changed to FAR's part 219. You can make a part for your own airplane, but if you're going to make 2 or 3 and sell it to Joe and Larry over here, then you're going to need a PMA approval. But if they assist you in making that part in any way, you can make it for them and charge them for your time. That's legal to do it. I made a few throttle cables for the Aeroncas 11AC and 11DCG. I had people to send me the drawing with a note on there. They just make this drawing for my chief. And that's legal to do. I made it exactly like the drawing. And since we're talking about throttle cables, that brought up something else. And boy, this is causing a lot of problems. Univer called me some time back, and their throttle cable for the 7 series Aeroncas, they were getting reports that this throttle cable that they were making was too short. And I wrote an article in the Aeroncas Aviators magazine a couple of years ago, and Robert Seago published it, about where the cable should be clamped. They were clamping the cable on the brass sleeve that holds the push-pull open rod, and that cable, or that throttle wheel, was got to a mark. Well, that was clamped so tight around that brass that it was bending and also making it too short. The cable has got to be clamped on the flexible part of the housing. There's a little bracket on tube number 19 on the 7 series fuselages on the lower left-hand side on that diagonal tube that runs down by your left and right leg. That's tube number 19. And that has a little tab welded on there. And they said, well, the cable was too small, that clamp wouldn't fit. Well, what Aeroncas did, they took a piece of 1/4-inch OD copper tubing, refrigeration tubing, about 3/4 of an inch long, and split it just on one end and spread it and put it over that flexible housing or flexible cable. And then the clamp would tighten up on it, tight and stuck. The same way on the engine mount, where it went down to the carburetor, where we just clamped it on that brass sleeve, and it would not work too short, and it would break the throttle cable. And it was so hard to get open and closed, it just worked really hard. It took both hands to get a hold of it before it closed or open. Of course, it's going through a arc and it's bending now. I have one up there in the bag. If somebody wants to look at it, I can explain it closer if you're not following clearly what I'm saying. How's my time holding out? How's my time? She said I had 2 minutes. I tell you what, when they run me out of here, I'll go out here on a picnic table out here someplace, and I'd be glad to sit there and talk with each person individually. Yeah. He was saying the toilet tank. Well, ultraviolet really works on that rubber. It gets brittle, falls apart on the toilet tank seal. On the toilet, that's kind of the dark ages there, and it was not exposed to ultraviolet rays from the sun. But this is immune to ultraviolet, and it will hold it better with the toilet tank wall. And it's kind of a foam, and it belongs on the toilet. This belongs on the airplane. Yes, sir. You have the OSF4RM, no impulse on it. Total prop fast. It'll start. It'll start. Yeah, years ago, well, this didn't happen years ago, but I had a person called me sometime back. They had a 1941 Aeroncas 65 CA, and they were working on it, and it had a hole about 1.75 inch diameter tube through the fuel tank that ran from the back to the front of the fuel tank. They wouldn't know what that was for. And somebody said, well, that was for tachometer cable to be through there. No, that wasn't for tack cable. That airplane had a Hummer starter on it. And they lose it. Still hear me? That airplane had an A65-9 engine in it, and the A65-9 had a Hummer starter on it. And that hole through the fuel tank, it had a shaft going through there to the back of the starter and a big crank on the panel. And it had a cable through pulleys down the firewall underneath the seat and back underneath, and it had a bungee cable that was fastened to the tail post. And that cable fastened to that bungee under there, and you wound that up, and you got it tight, and shoved that in, and that bungee hold that cable with that gear engaged the starter, and oh boy, that's really loud. What'd you do, Charlie? That gear engaged the starter, that was called a Hummer starter. I had 3 minutes. But has anyone ever in here seen a Hummer starter? I have a couple of them. I should bring it sometime, show folks what it look like. The thing weighed about 18 pounds. But I'll be glad to talk with anybody outside at the picnic table out here. We can talk about Hummer starters, old airplanes, ugly women, whatever you want to talk about. And be glad to answer your questions. I guess I'm out of time. If I had another couple of hours, I could cover a few more things for you. But anyway, I guess I ran out of time. Were there any questions that somebody wanted to ask second? I guess not.